little baby, don't you fear. We're never alone when Allah's so near. Hush little baby, breathing so calm. He'll protect us all and keep us from harm. Hush little baby, still and serene. You are a Muslim, Islam's your deen. Hush little baby, pure and small.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. Dear viewers everywhere, welcome to this new episode under the topic of Can you teach effectively? When you ask any teacher in the world, do you teach effectively? The answer is yes all the time. And how we are going to run these workshops. I remind you of a statement said by Bernard Shaw. I'm quite sure that you are aware of Bernard Shaw. He's a very cynical, sarcastic writer. And he is drawing our attention to some of the things related to education. And he said, those who can, do. If you can do any job, do it. If you cannot do any job, teach. And if you cannot teach, teach teachers. So he is criticizing me twice, and he's criticizing you once. So you are luckier than me. Anyway, he really is not criticizing. He's trying to say that, or trying to answer a question, is teaching something scientific or something like art, fan or ilm. So he's trying to draw our attention that ilm, in other words, everyone has his own way, has his own creativity in teaching. So he's saying that, yes, you can teach anything and you can be very creative. And the most famous teacher in the world, even those who wrote some theories about teaching, were not originally teachers. Some of them were musicians, some of them were doctors, some of them they worked in different fields. And this opens the door for us to be very creative. And unfortunately, when we compare teaching profession to other professions, we find that we don't talk about new trends in teaching all the time. All the time talk about the ways that we have learned through, and we think that they are effective and they are valid for every age and for every stage, which is not true. In technology, for example, in car manufacturing, every day we find new features added to the cars, new features added to the telephones, new features added to computers. Every day this is happening. Most of us use the same methods of teaching that our parents and our teachers asked us to use, or they used in our teaching. And we need to think that, are these valid and effective nowadays or not? I'll leave the answer with you, and then we'll discuss some of the things, the format of this workshop. The format will be every time when we speak here, I will give an example of good quality of teaching, a characteristic of good teaching, and then we'll explain. Give example and you give examples, so I expect you to speak more than I do, and then we will try to apply it, this feature, now the practical side of it, we'll try to apply it to the Islamic knowledge, the Islamic subjects. So we'll apply it to Seerah and to Quran, to Aqidah, to Hadith and to Fiqh. What else? So the format of this workshop will be as follows. The first thing is that I introduce one quality of good teaching. I'll explain it. I'll give one example. I expect you to give me other examples. Then the most important thing, that we are going to apply this to these different subjects, Islamic subjects like Aqidah, Quran, Hadith, and Seerah. And that's why from the very beginning I think I need to ask each of you, what is your interest subject? If you can, because if let's say that those three would take Hadith and those all subjects if possible. Okay, if they say Quran, who is interested in Quran to cover Quran here? Yes, no? Okay, be sure that you are going to continue doing that. Okay, Aqidah? The same people? No, you have to be, no. Because when I say that, let's apply it. So apply it to Quran, so I know that 3 people are going to do this. So as a basis. And if we can add, that's fine. So how about Sirah? The same people are raising the same hands. Now I want you to focus, because when I say that Quran, I don't want you, all of you, to focus on Quran, because you need to be busy with applying it to Hadith or to Sirah. It takes time. It doesn't come easy. Okay, how about Fiqh? So you are Fiqh, don't change your mind. Okay, good. I need another alternative. At least in every subject we need 2 people. So Fiqh from here, no Fiqh from here? Nobody likes Fiqh here. Okay, another one who likes Fiqh here? Okay, so 2 Fiqh now. Good. And then I will ask you this question and something about it. What will you change in your classroom after this discussion? It's a matter of, it looks like a pledge that you are going to tell us. I'm going to do this, this, this in my classroom. You're going to do this, this, this in your classroom. So when and everything is recorded, remember. So when I visit you in your schools, I will see how much have you fulfilled from the promise that you made. Is the format clear? Good. In the previous episodes that had been going on in the last 2 days here, we discussed the same topics. So I assume that some of you would appear clever than others, but don't be deceived by that, because they already studied this. One of the best qualities of good teaching, it's different from what we have been taught before. It's the level of interactivity in the classroom. In other words, the class should be an If it is like those 5 minutes I am speaking and you are listening, this is not a good class. The interactive class, we said that it should be interactive. That means the teacher should talk, the students should talk, the teacher should talk, and the students should make comments. The students making comments and other students are making comments. It's no longer one-way teaching as we learned it in the past. It's not even 2-way teaching. The teacher is talking to the students. It's rather 3-way teaching. When we talk about students are talking to each other, commenting on each other, and they are commenting on the teacher. They are asking the teacher questions. The teacher is responding. And based on this, you will find that the teacher is talking much less than the students. Is this clear? Interactive. Do you think, from the beginning, do you think, is this a good quality of a classroom, or we expect the teacher to speak 97% of the time? I'd like to hear your comments. Do you? Yes, please.
The usual trend that which we follow at schools is that we make the students listen first.
Okay.
And we tell them to keep some separate time for asking questions at the end of the class.
Okay. The format that we use, as he said, is that we let the students listen first. Okay. It depends on the level of the students. But is it a norm that all of us should we follow? Or, yes, please.
I think when it is interactive, it helps the teacher to keep a check whether, the children are intact and they are understanding, they are listening. Like when you keep cross-questioning and when they are also actively participating, so the class is going on.
He mentioned a good statement saying that let the students listen first. It's not necessarily to be the norm. You can arrange with the students that from the very beginning they can make the presentation. So the students begin the lesson and the other students listen. Okay? So it's not necessarily that there is a certain minutes or so. I want all of you to participate in this. This would be an example of an interactive class. Yes, okay? Any other thing? Any comments? Yes, please, speak up.
If you just introduce the topic first by just saying like this is what we are going to do, and you let the students speak, then you know what is their knowledge already on the subject.
Good.
You know where they flaw. So you know where to take the subject from.
Okay.
You don't waste time in something that they know, and you know where to build up on.
That's fine. But let's say that I made arrangement with the students from the very beginning that this day you are going to be the presenter, this day you are going to be presenter. So I will sit here, yes, and today you are going to come and say that today's topic is such and such. And he will give some background about the topic, and then the students will interact. It's not necessary that all the time the teacher should be leading the class. Do you understand what I'm saying? The reason behind this is that the more opportunities we give the students to speak and express themselves in the future. So it's not necessary that every day the teacher, he is the one who begins the class. He can get in and he sits in the back, and you know that today is your turn or today is your turn, so you will come and you will begin. Our topic is such and such, and we are going to cover this and this and this, and exactly as the teacher does. Is it difficult for high school students? Or even for the middle school students? Even for the primary students? I don't think it's difficult. Okay, now this is the first. Now we understand it. Okay, the example that we mentioned right now, either a student can begin, either two students you can arrange. That's not necessarily the teacher to begin or one teacher to begin. We can begin with two students coming to the stage. They are talking as if they are the teachers of one subject. Is this clear? We'll take a break and we'll come back, inshallah, to continue this talk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hush, little baby,
Welcome back. We are going to continue our topic, which was more specifically about interactive class. Most people think that the interactive class is just a question from the teacher and answer from students. This is not true. We want it again to be three-dimensional or three ways. Is this clear? Okay, so now that's what I expect. When somebody makes a comment, another one would insert his comment or her comment. So it should be like this. This is exactly what I mean, and I'm trying to explain it and live it because I'm giving you a chance to apply it. Now let's try to apply it on our subject matter. How would you expect a class? I'll ask this question, then I'll make a comment. How would you apply it on Seerah lesson, Aqidah lesson? Let's imagine that you are asking a question about Aqidah as if you are a student addressing, and you respond to each other. So give me some examples. How would you do it in a lesson of Seerah?
I would begin by asking to explain the term of the word Seerah first.
Okay. We are not in the beginning of the year. Imagine yourself that we are somewhere in the middle of the year, not necessarily.
In that case, I'll pick up an interesting story from the life of the Prophet, relevant to the day or the theme of the day.
Okay.
And then I'll go ahead and we can cross-examine, or I can ask.
What do you mean by go ahead?
Go ahead means what lessons we get from that particular incident that we learned or that I spoke out to the audience.
Okay, I want you to comment on this. Remember that we are restricted by the element of time in every classroom. Okay, tell me.
As the brother said, that if we begin with the topic of battles, for example, battles fought by Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, battle, we ask the students, like in today's time, what are the things that which you see on a battlefield? So the student's going to reply that, we use the tankers, we use the jets and the other things. Now we make a comparison with today's time, with the times of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that they use the horses and the swords. So making it very picturesque for the students.
I like the examples, but I think it's still very general example. We want to be specific. Specify a certain thing. We'll come back to Seerah. Let's go to Aqidah or Quran. How would you do it in Quran? Bear with us. We are learning together. Don't think that I have a package of things that I have the solution for the problems of the old classrooms. I want you to think, how would you apply this method of interactivity while you are explaining Quran? Now you are in a lesson of Quran. How would you make the class interactive? These are not easy questions. Yes, because the model was that the teacher would open a book and
With respect to Quran, I would divide the class into two groups and give the students, like say zakat or respect to your parents. And tell them to search for the verses
To search for the verses
which talk about these. Like zakat, at least give me 5 verses from the
that talk
Quran.
about zakah.
Zakat.
So when you're talking about tafsir, thematic tafsir, do you know thematic? It's under one theme that she gave example of zakah, right? I will divide students into 2 groups. Why 2 groups in specific?
Depending upon the strength of the class, I feel.
Okay, do you think if we make them 3 or 4 or 5 groups would be better and would make a shorter time? Okay, good. This is something good, but how are they going to make research? They're going to open page by page. Tell me, yes. Not necessarily she. I'm not addressing one person. You can help her, defend her, yeah. Tell me, how are the students going to make research in the class? Now if we address you, give me 5 ayat on zakat now. Question.
Sheikh, every student has a copy of the glorious Quran with him with the index in
Okay,
it.
I have a copy. No? The context. Not every student should have a copy with index in it. Now I have a copy of the Quran. How would I use it to make search? Yes. And this links very well when we say that when you make a good lesson plan, you have to imagine the situation. She suggested something that's beautiful, right? But how can we apply it in the classroom? Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I will distribute this thing into the different segments. Like one child will be looking at the verses, the other child will be looking at the other part. So distribute it in that manner.
What verse is he looking at?
One child will be responsible to check out the verses of zakah.
To check them where? He is the most. How can you check verses on zakah?
The teacher can ensure that every child.
Okay, you
Where
have the
we have-
translation copy.
yes.
How would you do this?
And then, as the sir said, that going through the index, the word zakat is there. And
My
then
mushaf doesn't have index. Do you think that all the
This
mushafs that
is,
the students have?
the teacher should ensure that she enters when she is doing this activity. So the translation copy should be given to each group.
Even the translation copy is given. It doesn't help. How would it help? I have a translated copy. It doesn't help.
What I would do is, before the students they come for the next class, I can give them to read some 2-3 surahs which do contain the word zakah mixed with some other surahs.
Okay.
Challenge for them.
This is another good approach. Now you see, we can do it in different ways, but this is something good. And the students don't have enough resources in the classroom. If we don't have enough resources, we can do it that way. So you read chapter Al Imran, you read chapter An-Nisa, you read chapter Al-Mu'minun, you read and try to get the ayah that talks about zakah, okay? Yes, so it becomes easier now if you don't have facilities, if you don't have resources. But if you do have, for example, if they have the books of tafsir with the index in it, you have 3 or 4 books of tafsir and you have index, so you will think differently. You'll say, okay, now each group would take one of these books and use the index to give me the ayat, right? Another way of doing it, right? You can send 2 students to the library to make the search while you are running the class, right? Teaching going on, right? They are going there, they are there, and they have 5 minutes, 10 minutes while the lesson is going on. Is this clear? Okay, another way of doing it. Yes, suggesting another way? Please stop me from talking, yeah, okay.
What we can also do is, although it's a Quran class, we can also ask the students to read some of the books on hadith, specifically having the topic of zakah.
Not yet, not yet, not yet. We're going to talk about this, but not yet. We want to know how we would teach a lesson about tafsir in an interactive way. Okay, good?
Brother, I have a comment. I would agree more with the brother who just said that he will give in advance the verses to the students. But if you are saying that they will need to go, 2 students will be going to the library, it is a sheer time, they are wasting the time over
No,
there. So how
they are
does
not.
it help?
We are teaching them a skill of getting the answer. The following day we'll get 2 different students, and the third day we're going to, you see what I'm saying? We are teaching them something else. They're going to miss only 10 minutes. This is not too much in teaching. One other way of doing it, Why we are saying that these different ways? Because it depends on the classroom. Sometimes you don't have any resources. Sometimes even you don't have a computer in the library, right? So we're giving you different options. So, or in the school. Another way of doing it, definitely, which is something very good, we expect you to do this, we will have a computer connected with the internet inside your class. We talked a lot about this, and this is something you would say that when I go home, when I meet the principal, I would ask the principal to bring internet to the school, to the classrooms, because we can do, while we are talking, student is making the search. And he will give us, or she will give us the response in the classroom. Do you think that this would be a vivid class, right? Okay, good. Now let's go back. This is about verses about zakah. Okay, and then they brought the text. Then what will happen? Up to now, it's not interactive. They are doing some research. They are talking to each other. Okay, this is the ayah, this is the verse. And now, how can we make it interactive now? Okay? Yes, please. I need everybody to speak.
Students, one of them recites the Arabic, and we can ask the other student to give the translation of that verse. So one recites and one gives the translation.
Okay, now so one is speaking and the other one is making translation. What else? How can we make it more interactive? Remember now, the teacher is not doing anything. I want you to imagine that. It's the students who are doing the whole work. Yes.
You ask them about their opinion about how Allah has enforced zakah on a certain category of people and how that leads to circulation of wealth so that no one's deprived.
Very
so
good.
that they can, like, they put in how it's your own wealth, but it gives you that thing to part away with it, to follow Allah's command, to ensure brotherhood. It builds a link in the community.
Okay, you get their comments, right? After explaining the verses, right? So you say that, oh, now let's understand the verse. And to understand the verse, it would require that somebody, for example, would have Tafsir ibn Kathir with him. So, and he would read the explanation of Tafsir ibn Kathir. Another one, if you have Tafsir al-Tabari. What do you understand from Tafsir al-Tabari? Do you think there is some difference? You see this question? Oh, so students start spending, no, there is no difference. Or yes, there is difference. When al-Tabari explains these verses, he focuses on the Arabic meaning, the linguistic meaning more than. Whereas Ibn Kathir is trying to explain his verses by other verses or by the hadith. Now you see the approaches, what's happening now. And you don't give the answer, you try to encourage them. Is there a difference between them? They are the one who thinks and they are the one who are going to give you a response. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Hush, little baby, pure and small, He created you, He created us all. Hush, little baby, don't you fear, we're never alone when Allah's so near. Hush, little baby, breathing so calm, He'll protect us all and keep us from harm. You are a Muslim, Islam's your deen. Hush, little baby, pure and small, He created you.